Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that touches every single one of us. It's the power of letting go. I know, it sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things we ever have to learn. But what if I told you that mastering it, or at least practicing it, could be the key to a much lighter, freer life? Just take a second and really think about that. What invisible weights are you carrying around today? We all have them, right? Those old mistakes that pop into your head at 3 a.m., the echoes of an argument from years ago, that feeling of regret over a path not taken. They're like these invisible backpacks we haul around, and man, do they get heavy. So let's dive into this, because before we can even think about putting these weights down, we first have to understand what we're holding on to. We need to get really honest with ourselves about what these burdens are. And, the big question is, why? Why is it so hard to just let them go? I have a feeling this list looks pretty familiar to a lot of you. It's that mental clutter, that emotional baggage that we pick up first thing in the morning. And these aren't just little thoughts that come and go. No, they're more like emotional anchors, right? Each one a little link in a chain that keeps us tied to a past that we just can't change, no matter how hard we try. And this really gets to the heart of it. We tell ourselves we're holding on because of love or because it's our duty, our responsibility. But if we're brave enough to look a little deeper, what we often find at the root of it all is fear. It's the fear of losing something, the fear of what comes next, the fear of stepping into the unknown. That fear, it's like super glue. It makes letting go feel completely impossible. So what happens when that grip, that attachment, starts to hurt more than it helps? Let's explore that idea, because there's this turning point we all reach. And I think a little story will really bring this to life. Let me tell you about Emma. After a really tough breakup, she just couldn't let go. She kept everything: old photos, saved text messages, even the coffee mugs they used to use together. In her mind, these things were lifelines, connecting her to the love she'd lost. But in reality, they weren't keeping her afloat. They were pulling her under into sleepless nights and a constant state of anxiety. And then, one day, something just clicked. She had this huge realization. She finally understood that letting go didn't mean the love was never real. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about reclaiming her own life. It was about giving herself permission to breathe again, to heal, and to actually live in the present moment. It was an act of survival, really. This chart really breaks down what Emma went through. Look at the left side, holding on. It's all fueled by fear and resistance, and where does that always lead? To suffering. But then you look at the right side, letting go. That's about trust. It's about acceptance. It's not about giving up. It's about surrendering to the flow of life. And that surrender, that's where you find peace. Okay, let's talk more about that word surrender, because it gets a bad rap. It can sound like weakness, like you're just giving up. But it's not that at all. It's actually an act of incredible wisdom. And there's a beautiful old story that illustrates this perfectly. So, the story goes, 2 monks are traveling together and they come to a river. There's a woman there, unable to cross. Without a word, one of the monks picks her up, carries her across the water, puts her down on the other side, and just keeps walking. Simple as that. But the other monk, he just can't get over it. For hours, he's fuming, replaying it in his head, completely burdened by something that ended hours ago. You see the difference? The first monk put the woman down, both physically and mentally, the second he was done. But the second monk, he was still carrying her, in his mind, miles down the road. The lesson is just so powerful, isn't it? Carry what you need to carry in the moment, but then you have to release it. Holding on to things that are no longer yours to hold only weighs you down.
Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But how do we actually do it in our chaotic everyday lives? Well, the first thing to remember is that letting go isn't a one and done event. It's not a box you can just check off your to-do list. It's a practice, a gentle, ongoing process that takes a whole lot of patience and kindness toward yourself. In fact, this is something we go into a lot deeper on our Spotify podcast, where we have more time to get into the nitty-gritty and have a more personal chat.
So here's a little toolkit to get you started. First up is awareness. That's just the simple act of noticing when you're clinging to a thought without judging yourself for it. Next, gratitude. Try shifting your focus to what's good right here, right now. Then there's silence. You can find it in meditations, sure, but even just a quiet walk can work wonders. And finally, journaling. It's an amazing way to get all those swirling thoughts out of your head and onto a page where you can actually make sense of them. And please, please remember this. This is probably the most important part. Healing is not a straight line. It's messy. Some days you'll feel light and free, and other days that weight will feel heavy again. That's not a failure. It's just part of being human. The key is to be gentle with yourself on those hard days and just keep going. So after all this practice, all this patience, where does it lead? It leads to transformation, to a kind of rebirth. And there's a powerful ancient symbol that captures this journey perfectly. I want you to picture a phoenix. This mythical bird lives its life, but then endures this intense fire, a fire that represents all our pain, our loss, our endings. But here's the magic. It doesn't just survive the fire. It uses the flames to be reborn from the ashes, stronger and more beautiful than before. Our hearts, our spirits, have that exact same ability. This just says it all, doesn't it? Letting go is that purifying fire. The process of healing, that's what builds your wings. And peace, well, peace is when you finally take flight. Let's just try this together, wherever you are. Take a slow, deep breath in. Really fill your lungs. And now, a long, slow exhale out. As you breathe out, just imagine all that tension, all that weight, leaving your body. With every single breath, you can practice this art of release. It's that simple, but it's also that profound. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. When you let go of the past, you're not just dropping a heavy weight. You're creating empty space. And in that space, something new has room to grow. So the question really is, what new life is just waiting for you to rise up and claim it?